This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, a PR podcast plug goes out this week to Jordan Michael Thomas. He's a 27-year-old musician, freelance journalist, social media manager based in Southern California. Now, Jordan recently sang the national anthem at Quake Stadium in Rancho Cucamonga, California. Now, if you follow Jordan on social media, as I do, you see he is a man of many talents, and this is one of them. So we're going to pause here for just a minute and give you a little flavor of Jordan singing that national anthem. Here we go. All right, so a PR podcast plug going out to Jordan Michael Thomas. Jordan, congratulations. Keep up the great work, and we're going to continue to follow your career on social media. Now, if you want a PR podcast plug, all you got to do is send us either a DM on social media or an email. You can email me, Jody at jodyfisherpr.com, or hit us up on any of the socials at the PR Podcast. Send us your PR podcast plug. It's something like Jordan did, right? It's not your 9 to 5. It's something that you did in your spare time. Maybe you won an award. Maybe you got a cool TikTok channel. Maybe you got a really groovy YouTube channel, or maybe you sang the national anthem somewhere. Let us know. Let us shout you out, and send us your PR podcast plug. We'll get you a mention at the top of an upcoming show. Now, on with our show for today, we have another great guest. Julie Whitney is a self-employed PR pro based in Cincinnati, Ohio, with 4 decades of PR, marketing, and advertising experience. She's worked in healthcare, fitness, pet care, financial, law enforcement, real estate, just about anything else you can think of, and has landed clients at every level of media. She says Google Alerts are one key to her success. She's also the author of the children's books Astra The Lonely Airplane and Astra In Hollywood, which draw on her experience as the wife of a pilot laid off during COVID. Well, Julie, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us about your writing career. How'd you get into book writing?
Well, I'll tell you, book writing was never on my bucket list at all. I've promoted dozens of authors throughout my PR career, and I know what hard work it is. I know what it takes. So I never intended to have a second act as a children's book author. However, 2020 was a very crappy year worldwide. I think we'll all agree.
My son has a t-shirt that says 2020 sucks. I agree.
It was horrible. And it was a great year to turn 60 during lockdown. My husband had promised me a 60th birthday trip to Italy, but instead I had a Zoom pizza party in my backyard. Zoom, that is not face-to-face, in my backyard with friends. And then to make things even better, my husband lost his job as the chief corporate pilot of this beautiful G100 Gulfstream jet due to the pandemic, when unexpectedly, after 13 years, his company said, hey, due to the pandemic, we're not going to fly. We're going to shut down the flight department, and you and Astra are both out of a job. Go clean out the hangar. That just topped things off for me. So I went with him to the hangar to clean everything out, all the stuff he had accumulated over 13 years, and say goodbye to the airplane, because they were pretty much attached at the hip. I mean, she was his baby. He knew her quirks, the ins, the outs. He flew her as far away as Brazil. He flew her 3 times a week. So I got very emotional when I went into the hangar and I saw this beautiful jet sitting there, and I said, can I climb inside her? He let me climb inside her. He turned on the instrument panel for me and lit her up, and I started weeping. I just uncontrollably, I said, what's going to happen to her? This plane is going to be sitting here all alone in this hangar, wondering where you are, why she's rusting away in a dark, cold hangar. And I started personifying the plane. It just came to me. I was just overcome with emotion and anger at the same time. So I went home that night and started writing Astra The Lonely Airplane. I called the plane Astra because the original plane was called the Astra SPX, the first Gulfstream jet, and she was actually made in Israel. So I thought that would be a clever name for the book. And I've always been really good at rhyming, writing rhyming verse. I've written it for my friends growing up for all their birthdays, and I even write it for my clients on their birthdays. And people have always come to expect a birthday ode from me every year. So I decided to make it a rhyming picture book. So I wrote the verse, and then the problem came of finding a publisher. It's not easy. And there's a glutton of children's books on the market right now. It seems that every celebrity has one too. Every day I get a Google alert that another celebrity has written a children's book. So I started pitching publishers and literary agents, and I got lots of rejection. This whole process started in about June of 2020. And magically on August 19th, which is National Aviation Day, I got a contract from a publisher. And I even put it aside because I was so sure it was going to be another rejection email that I didn't read it right away. And then I had to read it twice. And then it said, "We love your book. We want to publish it. Let's talk." So Astra The Lonely Airplane actually came out on March 2nd, 2022, which is actually was Read Across America Week and Dr. Seuss's birthday. And it's geared to children ages 3 to 10. It teaches them about overcoming difficult situations that may arise in their young lives, dealing with difficult people and having hope. And it actually comes with a 2-page glossary in the back. And what we did is we made a video to come with that goes with the book. So there's a QR code in the back of the book, and Captain Dan, my husband, was a very good sport about we went to the hangar, we got permission, and we actually shot a video of him giving kids a tour of the inside and outside of the real Astra. And I hired one of my longtime friends who used to be the chief photographer at the Cincinnati Enquirer, who's now freelance, and he and his wife came out, videotaped the whole thing, edited it, put it to music, and then we put it in the book with the QR code. So when I go read to schools or at book signings, I actually show the video and kids go nuts. And I wear my pilot uniform. I got a real pilot uniform, and Captain Dan often comes with me if he's not flying the friendly skies, so that when the kids ask me the difficult questions such as, "What makes a plane fly?" And my answer would probably be, "Magic, kids, it's magic." He can actually explain it in the technical language. And the teachers or principals always say, "Do you have a question for the author?" And kids often have some questions for me, but the questions they have for Dan are so hilarious. They're like, "Where does the pilot go to the bathroom? And do you need a key to fly the airplane? And can you eat food in the cockpit?" And what's been really fun is I actually get fan mail from kids. They'll write me letters. This is a picture of Captain Dan. It's better than I could
So
draw.
adorable.
And this is Astra. I mean, I get these wonderful notes from kids that want to be pilots, want to be authors, want to be illustrators. And frankly, you don't make any money unless you're Jimmy Kimmel or Drew Barrymore as a children's author, right? But you do it because of the reward that you get back from the kids. I've never had a feeling like this, knowing that something that I created, got kids really enthused and excited. So I can't turn off my writing brain. And I wrote a second book because the first book, Astra ends up at her new home in Hollywood. So the second book, Astra in Hollywood, she's in a new glitzy Hollywood hangar with red carpets and chandeliers. She meets 3 new friends in her new city who are all quite different from her. She meets Lana the Learjet, who flies rich and famous movie stars to their sets, and Helen the helicopter, who can hover and fly very low and help to catch thieves, and Hank the cargo plane, who flies important packages overseas. And Astra feels a bit intimidated because she can't compete with her new friends who all have skills that she lacks. But in the end, each of her new friends has a problem that only Astra can solve in her own unique way. She saves the day, and at the end becomes famous in her own right. So that's the second book, Astra in Hollywood.
Those sound great, and love that you get the feedback from the kids, because we all need a paycheck, but that's kind of better than a paycheck, right? To get that feedback.
I credit the kids with giving me the idea for the second book. I knew she was going to be in Hollywood, but the teachers asked the kids, they tried to stimulate them with some questions at the end. They said, what do you think is going to happen to Astra in Hollywood? And a third grade classroom actually said, well, they said she was going to meet a rapper named Da Baby. And I looked him up, and that wasn't going to happen in the book. It's not PG. So they said Astra's going to become famous. And I thought, oh, there's got to be a way that Astra can become a superstar. And she does at the end of the first book. And then I have a third
So
book
great.
written too, but I'm really trying to focus on creating an animated streaming series. I have 20 episodes written.
I was going to say, I smell some more here. This is not just a book. This is a whole dynasty.
It could be so cute. I just need an animation company who's willing to take a chance on me and make a trailer just so I can start pitching it, or a sponsor, a really wealthy sponsor to come along and help fund the whole thing. But I really, really dream of an animated series, whether it's on YouTube or Apple or Netflix or anywhere at all. I really think that Astra can come to life and teach a lot of lessons to kids. So
yeah, paging Hulu or Disney or, one of them, right?
are you tuned in? Or a billionaire would be good too. So either way.
There you go. Why not? Why not?
So
Well,
I think that
so let's segue into where you pulled those writing skills from, which is your first career that you had in PR and marketing. How did those writing skills help you, have the confidence to write a book?
I'll tell you, I think just promoting so many authors throughout my career gave me the confidence. But my background is segueing into actually how it helped me with my PR career. So I started on my own in 2000 after having a career in local television and in advertising with various agencies, as you mentioned. And I think being in television gave me the unique perspective because I was on both the sales side for a while, and I was also the community affairs director, where I worked directly with the news department. So I understood the commercial side and the news side of a business. So I know, like, for example, when are the busiest times for a local newsroom? When's a good time to call? What makes a good story? How to spin it? What content is better off as a paid commercial that isn't going to fly as a story? I'm brutally honest with my clients because of this. And if they come to me with a story that's too commercial, and it's not really a story for news, I tell them, don't waste your time or money. It's not going to fly. And I don't want to be the PR person that cries wolf with reporters or news directors and have them say, Julie, have your client buy a commercial. Come on, you know better than this. So I never do that. But it's also taught me that there's a fine line with what you can get away with, as I know how to spin, as we all do, how to spin stories by tying in perhaps with a charitable aspect. For example, I have a plastic surgeon client who's very well known, Dr. John Mendelson, and he got this PicoSure laser that actually is the most effective way to remove unwanted tattoos. Now that sounds like by a commercial. However, pro bono, he partnered with Hamilton County and started treating former inmates who had unsightly tattoos, such as spider webs across their whole face and neck, things that didn't let them present themselves really well in the job market, and teardrops coming out of their eyes, people with excessive tattoos on their faces. And he actually treated them free of charge. And it was a wonderful story. The news media loved it. Hamilton County loved it. And it was a great way to get exposure for this new laser that effectively removes tattoos. So, if there's a charitable aspect, it's a great way of getting the message out there. I also, working in news, taught me how to pitch the biggest and most compelling stories during the sweeps months of February, May, July, and November. Knowing that if your story ends up as a big one during sweeps months, you're going to get a ton of promos. They're going to promote the heck of it coming up tonight at 11, and they're going to air it several times, and you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Additionally, if you're pitching an evergreen story that can run anytime, use some common sense and be sensitive to breaking news. Don't pitch a story during a local disaster or a blizzard or during any time that there's major breaking news. Newsrooms are strapped. They have fewer videographers. They're scaling back on their staff. Let your story wait until the smoke is cleared. And the same goes nationally as it does locally. A major national hurricane, I've had clients bump for that. or any other unfortunate tragedy will be a priority in terms of news coverage. So be sensitive. Don't call when you know there's other breaking news in the headlines. And what you mentioned in the intro about Google Alerts, it sounds silly and easy, but it's really a very good way to develop great story ideas that you haven't dreamt up on your own. For example, Ozempic face is all over the headlines. So I have a facial plastic surgeon that I mentioned, and he's been on the air constantly talking about ways to treat Ozempic face. So if you see something in the national headlines, try to bring it to the local level because you know reporters will be looking for a story. The other thing that was really hot last summer, going back to the same client though, was Barbie Botox. As soon as the Barbie movie aired, people wanted longer, slimmer necks and the appearance of a Barbie doll. So we spun the story and we talked about how to inject Botox in your traps to achieve the appearance of a longer neck like Barbie. So it really is a great way to just give yourself additional ideas of stories that you probably never would have pitched.
That's a great point, taking the national stories or the larger stories and drilling down and making them more local, sort of, because people are tempted, I think, to want to do the reverse, right? Let's take this local story from a client's perspective. We're doing this thing, we need national attention for it. And what you're saying is flip it on its head.
So for your local clients. And the other thing I will say, my biggest success has been the pandemic. In addition to publishing books, I used it to pitch story on every single client that was adapting accordingly to guidelines for the pandemic. For example, my plastic surgeon client was started selling products drive up. He wasn't doing Botox, but he was still selling products to keep in clients, in front of them. And they were having drive-through people come up to buy their, beauty care products and skincare products. My health club client disinfected their club from top to bottom and put in a new air filtration system, spaced the equipment 6 feet apart. I had so much coverage on that with reporters covering how they were adapting and sanitizing. I have a pet euthanasia client that was still continuing to put pets down in the sanctity of their own homes, in the privacy of their garages or other safe outdoor spaces. Pets are still dying. Owners still deserve to give them a wonderful send-off in their own home. So she found a creative way of doing that. Even my cemetery client had to limit the size of funerals and gatherings to just 10 people. So we got coverage on that. So all of these clients got coverages on the new normal, and it was very lucrative and busy, and reporters were continually asking for pandemic stories. I even had a local company here who is a travel nursing company who was sending nurses to the front lines in New York back when things were really raging in March and April. And we got on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt because I pitched them on the fact that we had nurses willing to go to the front lines and volunteer to go to New York. And that was really cool. It was part of a larger story, but it really went over well. So the other thing I want to add is being in news taught me that it's often better to go to the talent rather than the producers, who are often overwhelmed with pitches.
Yeah.
The talent can trump producers on a story idea that they're passionate about. I've seen this happen on many occasions. And years ago, I pitched Chris Cuomo, who actually got to meet in person, on a story at ABC about Kathleen Sullivan, my client, who was the first woman to fly in the space shuttle. He forwarded it to Diane Sawyer. She emailed me back. She loved it. The whole thing, unfortunately, didn't work out due to the timing of the live shots. It never happened. It got scrapped. But it just shows you that if you can get to know the talent, they sometimes can really trump the producers. It also happened with my friend Barb Pinto, who was the ABC Chicago bureau reporter. She actually flew to Cincinnati on 2 occasions to do stories on my clients. One was for Nightline and one was for ABC World News Tonight. She's no longer at ABC, but we stay in touch. And it's just an example of how the on-air talent can be really important to you in your efforts.
So true. Yeah, so true. And 100% co-sign there. So how have you used those skills, and let's pivot back to your book, to pitch yourself as the subject of the story? Because you do have to promote yourself, right? You do have to promote yourself as an author, got to promote your book. So how have you tapped into those skills to promote yourself?
A couple ways. So locally, it was pretty easy because I know everyone in town and I had book signings coming up. And so you, local reporters just want to know how people can meet the author. So it was a book signing coming up. The interviews turned out great. I got 4 or 5 minutes of time on every station. They had a ball. They were glad that I was coming back with a second book, and I had a ball promoting my signings that were coming up. Our CBS affiliate even showed up at a book signing. I've never seen a TV station come to a local book signing, but they all loved the story so much. Nationally, it was a bit trickier because I have a Google alert set on children's books. And like I said, all the celebrities are coming. I mean, Jill Biden just wrote a book on the White House cat. I mean, every celebrity has a book for kids. So I got really excited. I pitched the Nick Cannon show, which has since been canceled. But I pitched the show because I know he has like 12 kids. He has a lot of kids. And he's got a ton of Instagram followers. They love the story, and he was starting a segment at the very end of the show called Cannon's Kids Book Corner, because even though the show was kind of outrageous, and he's a dad and he was going to do this kids thing at the end of every show. So, are you vaccinated? Yes. Will you wear a mask? Yes. Whatever you need. Can you fly to New York? Yes. I overnighted them the book and they loved it. And then I didn't hear back for like a month and I kept pestering them. Well, finally, I read that the show got canceled, and the executive producer, I was so close. I was so mad. Emailed me back apologizing and explaining. And the producer that I was working with had gone on to divorce court. Well, I don't want to be on divorce court. That's okay. So that never happened, which I was really disappointed in. But what I've done is with my Google alerts, I've found a lot of reporters and other national and vertical publications that are covering kids' books. I've had a lot of success with that. One just ran today. I posted on LinkedIn. I've been doing podcasts like this. Now that Harrow's back in operation as, what did Peter Shankman rename it? Harrow
He
or
renamed it Hero, and then he
Hero?
renamed it again as
Again.
SOS. Yeah.
I mean, Cision, I'm still a Cision subscriber, but anyway, I'm getting frustrated with that whole thing. So I've already landed several stories just because of Peter. And I actually emailed him and thanked him the other day, telling him I've gotten 2 book interviews so far and a couple from my clients. One on my client ran today on Medscape. So that's been really helpful too. Social media has also been great. I have a separate Instagram for my author page. And I've gotten a lot of book reviews and interviews through that. So that's worked out real well. But it's tough with the children's book market. I have people calling me every day for advice, and I try to be positive, but it's tough. It's just tough. At least I
Yeah,
have
I
a
was going to
publisher.
ask you what, in whether you're promoting yourself, your book, or you're promoting another client, what is and I don't need you to name like the one thing, but what are a couple of like top of mind things that you remind yourself of whenever you're pitching, and maybe you're not hearing back, or you're having trouble getting through to somebody? What are some of the things that you draw on?
Well, first of all, I try to find that story peg. So, in fact, I just had a lady approach me today about helping her with her book, and right away it screamed Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is a story of overcoming an abusive relationship. But anyway, I always try to find that story peg, even if it means delaying the pitch a little bit. I try to find whether it's breast cancer awareness, or I just had a ton of stories for Skin Cancer Awareness Month in May. I try to find the time when I know reporters are going to be looking for that story. I had a client that I worked with many years ago. It was when Matt Lauer and Katie Couric were still at the Today Show, so a very long time ago. But they were teaching kids about the importance of safe sex. And they cited a stat at the time, it's probably higher now, about how many children lost their virginity on prom night. And at the time, it was a very startling number. And so I said, we're going to pitch this, right during prom season. Coincidentally, Matt and Katie were doing a whole week on teens and sex, and they flew them to New York. The client ended up on the Today Show and on Dateline talking about that. So always try to remind myself, what are reporters looking for? How can I make this of interest? The other key learning is if let's say I pitch a reporter and I feel that the pitch is really on target. I've been following their columns, their stories. I know it's perfect for them and they shoot me down and get back to me. I'm like, I usually say, well, this pitch seems so on target for you because of XYZ. I'm sorry if I've inconvenienced you. And they usually get back to me in a nice way and explain why they're taking a pass. And I try to learn what I can do to make it on target the next time. And I've actually met some of my best reporter contacts in this manner. A small business reporter that used to be at the Wall Street Journal, we went back and forth until I found out exactly how many words she was looking for, exactly what she wanted, a problem and solution type column. And it got to the point where I had about 10 clients in her column, and she would call me on a Monday if she had a Thursday deadline and didn't have anyone yet. She would actually come to me and say, hey, you got anyone this week? I'm like, oh, I'm sure I can find someone that wants to be in the Wall Street Journal. So, but she's long retired. All my longtime clients or colleagues in the media, I guess I should say, are retired. It's sad. I'm losing them one by one.
Well, yeah, but that's the name of the game, right?
I
I mean, we're
know.
constantly turning over contacts, but great advice there to get feedback, to ask a reporter for feedback as to why something isn't working for them. When you think it was, but you just nailed it, right? Because that's so important.
It is.
And,
And
and
you
I
have to be
and I
nice
think it
about it.
helps the report. Well, I
Yeah,
think it helps the reporter too, or the producer, or the whoever, because then that refines what is coming into their inbox.
exactly.
And as PR people, I think we at least I'll speak for myself. I'm really cognizant of what I'm sending out. I'm not sending out junk, right? So, and I think the vast majority of us adhere. And so getting that feedback really helps us, right?
It does. And I've even had a couple reporters that have sent me like a mean. I know we all get the mean, nasty responses, right? We've gotten mean. We have thick skin. I mean,
Unsubscribe.
oh yeah. Yes, exactly. How'd you get my name? I'm not even in the business anymore, whatever. But I usually am very apologetic. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so I always respond no matter what. Kill them with kindness has always been my motto." And usually they'll respond and say, "Hey, I was having a bad day." A lot of times. 5 out of 10, I'll say. I was having a bad day. I'm really sorry, or let me take another look or whatever, or they remember me the next time round. So, you
Yeah.
know,
Great advice. Great advice. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Julie, and I'm so glad that we got to talk about your book. We will look forward to hearing more about it. But for
yeah.
now, we are going to wrap up this conversation and segue into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we
Uh-oh.
steal a page from inside the actor's studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. Julie, Whitney from Cincinnati, Ohio. Let's jump right in with rapid fire question number one. What's your favorite news source?
Ooh. David Muir, baby, all night long. Can look at that man all night long. Very easy on the eyes. Says, honey, here's your martini, your Tito's martini. Your boyfriend's on the air. He does need some new ties. He wears that polka dot tie way too much, though.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Rapid fire question number two. What's your favorite social media platform?
I'll tell you, it's LinkedIn. I've made my key connections with reporters, book reviewers, pilots, booksellers, potential agents, animated streaming series people, finding great news stories on LinkedIn. However, it's recently turned into a dating platform. I've gotten 3 or 4 very inappropriate direct messages from people asking me out on LinkedIn. Now, I don't know how it got to that place, but I've had a few of those lately. So stop that. It's not what it's for.
The bottom of the barrel always seems to find its way into the daylight. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry that happened to you. Rapid fire question number three, coffee or alcohol? Maybe you need one of these to fend off all those proposals.
Yeah. Black coffee first thing in the morning. Sorry, I gotta have the Tito's shaken very cold at night. Hold the vermouth while I'm watching David Muir, and 1 olive, no olive juice.
Sounds good. Sounds
80
good.
calories.
Rapid fire question number four. What's your favorite on the run food?
You're not gonna know what this is. Skyline Chili, Cincinnati's finest. We're known for our 3-way chili. Skyline, that's what we're famous for.
Okay.
No,
Now
chili.
describe what's in the chili for
What's
us.
in the 3-way? It's not what you think. It's chili, spaghetti, and cheese. And if you add onions, it's a 4-way, and beans, it's a 5-way. I stick to the
Oh
free.
my goodness. That sounds awesome. That sounds fantastic. I'm going to have to come to Cincinnati just for that. Fantastic. And rapid fire question number 5, Julie, what do you want to be after you finish this career? I think you might already be on to Act 2, but you tell us.
I want to be producing the Astra and Friends animated streaming series for kids. That's what
Oh,
I'm
that
doing.
sounds great. I think you got a natural there. I mean, I think it's just a matter of time and, finding the right
And
connection
money.
because,
And money.
well, that's what, like you said, that's what they have billionaires for. Julie, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Well, I have 2 websites. My PR website is pwcommunications.net, and my book website is Astra, A-S-T-R-A, thelonelyairplane.com. I have 2 Instagrams at Julie Whitney Author and at Whitney Julie. I have 2 Facebooks, Julie Philippi Whitney and Best Cincy PR Pro. And for those people that want to date me, I'm just kidding. LinkedIn is Best Cincy PR Pro. Oh no, that's Twitter. I'm sorry, X. LinkedIn is Philippi Whitney Communications. I got myself all flustered there. Philippi Whitney Communications is LinkedIn. And if you are an animator or producer or want to fund a creative animated series, please contact me.
Sounds good. We'll put all that in the show notes, minus the marriage proposals, Julie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Got one of those. Thanks, Jody.
Thank you so
This was
much for being here
fun.
today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.